Need the stand. Hello. Hi, Dan, can you see me? Dan, can you see me?
I can see you, Fani, perfectly. It's Wendy.
I can't see myself though. How do I? Can you just ask?
Oh, I think it's off the screen at the moment, so they'll bring you on as soon as it starts.
Okay, that's all right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
And a very, very warm welcome to you. My name is Dan Stillerman, and it's an absolute privilege to be here with you this evening. And welcome to you wherever you are in the world. I know we've had an enormous response to this evening's event, and I'm sure you're very, very excited to hear from Dr. Edith Eger. And we are going to welcome everybody. I see there's close to 2,000 people in the Zoom. We are streaming live on Facebook as well. We're just going to activate that stream now. This event will be recorded on Facebook as well. Okay, there we go. We are officially streaming live on Facebook. Somebody has asked me to speak louder, so I will make sure that the microphone is nice and close to my mouth here. Welcome to you. I see lots and lots of people are joining. We're going to cross over to Mark Posniak any moment now. In the meantime, what you can do in the chat is let us know where in the world you are. We'd love to know where you're joining from. I see Sharon has just messaged she's in Cape Town. And okay, I'm going to make sure that my sound settings are good because a couple of people have said it's a little bit soft, but people are posting messages, so you clearly are hearing me. We have people from Israel, from San Diego, from Cape Town, from Glen Hazel. Welcome to everybody, Atlanta. Okay, I see that, sure. People from London, people from Canada, Sydney, Australia. It must be early hours of the morning there. Detroit, Michigan. Absolutely wonderful to have everybody on board. I'm going to now ask Mark Posniak to, there we go, there's Mark. And Mark, if you can unmute yourself and you're going to give us an official welcome.
Thanks, Dan. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the South African Jewish Board of Deputies Gauteng Conference. I extend a special welcome to Health Minister William Keys, an old and loyal friend of our community who has shouldered the responsibility of leading our country's medical response to this crisis so ably. We know how short your time is presently, Minister, and we thank you for making yourself available to us here tonight. Deputy Minister Dikuledi Makhatsi, Honored Rabbonim, His Excellency, the Ambassador of Israel, Lior Kenan, His Excellency, the Ambassador of Germany, Martin Schäfer, and other members of the diplomatic corps attending tonight, members of Parliament, members of political parties, and members of the judiciary, as well as fellow communal leaders. I would also like to make special mention of 3 Vice-Chancellors who are here with us tonight. Prof. Mandla Makanya from UNISA, Prof. Tawana Cooper from the University of Pretoria, and the incoming VC of WITS, Prof. Zeblon Vilakazi. Over the past 5 months, the coronavirus known as COVID-19 has resulted in great hardship globally. It has and continues to have severe ramifications for the citizens of our country. Our own community has not been spared. SA Jewelry has suffered a high number of infections, over 100 deaths, countless lost jobs and lost businesses. Our community, like everyone else, has experienced loneliness during the lockdown and months of separation from our precious synagogues. Throughout this dark period, the SAJBD has worked hard to unite our communal leadership across organizations. It has been a privilege to witness firsthand the high caliber of leadership our community has in the areas of welfare, education, religious affairs, security, and Hatsola, to name just a few. Leaders of these various aspects of communal life pulled together like never before to carry and to support our community. It would be impossible for me to make mention of each individual's contribution, but it would be remiss of me to not make mention of two. Our community's every effort was guided by two remarkable individuals that have given and continue to give so selflessly of themselves. To Professor Barry Shub and Dr. Richard Friedland, South African Jewelry thanks you both. One of the main aims of leadership throughout this has been to provide a sense of security and hope. Hope. It is the deep need for hope and resilience that led us to approach the remarkable Edith Eger to be our keynote speaker tonight. She is truly a paragon of hope, with messages that are desperately needed at this time. Our proceedings will begin with a brief overview of the work of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies.
The year 2020 had hardly begun when the COVID-19 pandemic struck, confronting South African Jewry with an unprecedented set of challenges to the lives and livelihoods of its members and the viability of its communal institutions. For the Jewish community, these troubled times have urgently called for firm, responsible and forward-looking leadership. On the very day that the first infection in the Jewish community was confirmed, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies immediately swung into action. Regular community leadership forums have been convened by the board to ensure that responses to every aspect of the pandemic are coordinated, strategic and properly communicated. Shortly before the lockdown, the board set up a COVID-19 Jewish community platform. This has become the go-to website for expert medical, financial and legal advice and updates on local developments and decisions.
We are very pleased today that we are able to launch a fund where the Jewish community will contribute to the alleviation of hunger in our country in a very substantial way.
The severe economic impact of the lockdown has intensified problems of hunger in disadvantaged communities throughout South Africa. With the support of various donors, the board established a food relief fund for those especially hard hit by the lockdown. Working closely with the Angel Network, it funded a range of projects bringing urgently needed relief in both rural and urban areas across 8 provinces. Thousands of South African citizens found themselves stranded overseas as a result of the pandemic. Working with the South African and Israeli embassies, Departments of International Relations and Cooperation, and Home Affairs, international airlines and others, the board was instrumental in dozens of South African citizens being repatriated from Israel. It also assisted individuals in traveling to Israel on compassionate grounds. During the lockdown, the board also assisted in the field of mental psychological health, working with experts and organizations to help combat stress, loneliness and depression in the community. Together with Chief Rabbi Goldstein, board members have represented the community at virtual interfaith consultations with President Ramaphosa. Even while dealing with the multiple challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, the board has continued to carry out its core mission of safeguarding the civil rights of South African Jewry. In August 2019, the board's 10-year-long case against COSATU International Relations Secretary Bongani Masuku culminated in a hearing before the Constitutional Court. The matter will have significant implications for South African law in terms of prohibited hate speech. Through working with the relevant academic institutions, the board has maintained its excellent track record of resolving problems of university exams being set on Shabbat or Yom Tov. In cases where community members have passed away while in other countries, the board works with the Departments of Health and International Affairs and the relevant embassies to arrange for them to be repatriated as quickly as possible.
Yeah. When my son tragically lost his life in Israel, and I have to just say that if it wasn't for Wendy Khan and Zed Kringle, they were my two lights in a very, very dark tunnel, because they assisted in the repatriation of Adam's body, and they brought him back in the most unbelievable time. They worked through hurdles and hoops, and they had to get a whole lot of information to the embassy. They had to translate information from Hebrew into English, from English into Hebrew. I had no idea what it entailed to get my boy home, and all we wanted to do was to get my boy home so that we could give him a Jewish burial.
Working with the Independent Electoral Commission and the relevant South African missions, the board was instrumental in Jewish expatriates being able to cast their special votes after Shabbat on the 27th of April. The board ensures that the voice of the Jewish community is heard on all issues that concern it. To this end, it maintains effective channels of communication and fosters relationships with government and leading figures in the political, academic, media and civil society arena. For the 2019 national and provincial elections, the board again ran a multifaceted pre-election education and awareness campaign, Women Wage Peace, an Israeli NGO that brings women of all backgrounds together in working for peace, was brought to South Africa by the board in August 2019. Through its communications department, the board promotes the activities of the Jewish community, responds to anti-Jewish and anti-Israel bias in the media, and educates the greater society regarding the Jewish religion, history, and culture. Jewish Board Talk, a weekly current affairs program on 101.9 Chai FM, hosted by Sharice Zeffert, is a popular forum for publicizing both the work of the board and the activities of Jewish organizations and community members. The board maintains close working relationships with international Jewish organizations. Through these connections, it shares skills and information in addressing issues of common concern, including combating anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. As it looks to the future, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies remains as committed as ever to promoting the well-being of the Jews of South Africa and leading them in being an active, identifying part of their society. The Jewish community of South Africa can feel assured that in good times and bad, the board will always be there for them, 24/7 and 365 days a year.
Dan. I now have the pleasure to welcome a truly inspirational South African leader. Fani Titi is a man that grew up on a farm with a bleak future of dropping out of school. Yet his remarkable journey took him from the Free State to study at the University of Berkeley in California and doing his MBA at Wits Business School. He has risen to become one of South Africa's top business leaders. He has chaired many organizations before joining Investec as joint CEO in 2018, and then Investec Group Chief Executive earlier this year. On a personal note, I met Fani for the first time at a showing of a Holocaust film at Anand Singh's cinema several years ago. With his commitment to Holocaust education and fighting hatred and intolerance, Fani serves on the board of the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center. He is a friend of our community, and we thank him for sponsoring our conference tonight and making it possible for Dr. Eger to share her precious messages for us in South Africa. Fani, we look forward to hearing your message.
Thank you, Wendy. honest guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I begin by congratulating the Gauteng Council of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies on tonight's biennial conference for the year 2020. Investec greatly values its long-standing partnership with the Board of Deputies in working together to find solutions and to making a positive difference in our country. We are therefore proud to be the anchor sponsor of this important event on the Jewish communal calendar. Last year, I was honored to bring a message on behalf of my organization at the SAJBD's National Conference. On that occasion, I stressed that we dare not lose faith in ourselves and in our ability to negotiate the challenges confronting our country. The danger of such negativity is that ultimately it will become self-fulfilling. I said then that there are two ways in which we can approach the question, what can we do when it comes to confronting the challenges of the day? One is in a spirit of defeatism, where it is somehow assumed that things are so bad that there is nothing that we can do about it. The other way is to engage with the question with a view to looking for practical solutions. It is a question of choice on our part. This brings me to recognizing this evening's esteemed guest speaker. Recently, I was the subject of a profile piece for the Times of London and was asked during that interview to name a book that has had a particularly strong influence on me. The book I chose to name was The Choice, Embrace the Possible by Dr. Edith Eger. For me, as no doubt for countless others who have read it, this book contains many critical lessons for positive, forward-looking daily living. It is on the one hand a deeply sobering, eye-opening record of horrors to which the writer was subjected to as a young woman and of the hatred and cruelties that ultimately consumed the lives of so many others like her. I personally witnessed some remaining evidence of this cruelty when I visited Poland in June of 2018. However, her story is not just a survivor's testimony, important though that is. Dr. Eger rather uses her own personal story to teach the world at large about the power of the human spirit to endure, to forgive, and to make positive life choices. As a Black South African, I find these lessons particularly moving and relevant. Despite the harrowing experiences to which the majority of people in this country were subjected, this does not have to mean that we look at ourselves as victims. Rather, we can respond as freely choosing individuals who opt to live a positive life, not despite what we experience, but because of it. These are lessons that could help South Africa as a whole move forward, but they are equally transformational at the individual level as well. In conclusion, I wish to quote Gerda Klein, Holocaust survivor, author, and historian. President Obama described her as a crusader for tolerance, and that she has taught the world that it is often in our most hopeless moments that we discover the extent of our strength and the depth of our love. And I quote her, "I pray you never stand at any crossroads in your lives, but if you do, and the darkness seems so total, and you think there is no way out, remember, never ever give up." Once again, I thank the Board of Deputies for this opportunity of addressing you and wish the Gauteng Council all success on this auspicious occasion. I thank you.
Dr. Edith Eva Eger is a pioneer in the field of psychology, teaching people how to use their pain to help them heal. At age 90, Dr. Eger wrote her first book, The Choice, Embrace the Possible. Her powerful message rings true for me. She writes that our painful experiences are not a liability, they are a gift. I am forever changed by her story, and I know you will be too.
I didn't know anything until I saw our wife, Mark Fry. And I didn't know where I was, and everything was chaos. That my father looked at that and said, it can't be bad because we're just gonna work and then we go home. And then we were separated. Then I met Dr. Mengele, who told my mother to go one way and my sister and I the other. And I followed my mother and he grabbed me and he said in German, you're gonna see your mother soon, she's just gonna take a shower. I ended up dancing for Dr. Mengele and I closed my eyes and I pretended that the music was Tchaikovsky and I was dancing the Romeo and Juliet at the Budapest Opera House. So when I finished dancing, he gave me bread and I shared the bread with the girls. And when I was on a death march going from Mauthausen to Gunskirchen, if you stopped, you were shot right away. And I was really slowing down and I thought I'm gonna be stopped too. And I was going to be shot. And the girls that I shared the bread with, they came and carried me so I wouldn't die. Isn't that amazing? The worst condition brings out the best in it.
On May 4th, 1945, close to 1 year after being imprisoned by the Nazis, an American soldier from the 71st Infantry discovered Edith lying beneath a pile of dead bodies with a broken back, typhoid fever, pneumonia, and pleurisy. Edith was barely alive. What was your mantra?
My mantra?
Yes.
If I survive today,
If I survive today,
then tomorrow I will show my boyfriend my eyes and my hands.
yes.
It was the boyfriend that told me I have beautiful eyes, because when I was put on a cattle car, he said, I'll never forget your beautiful eyes and beautiful hands.
I know.
So this is what I said.
Yeah.
You know, if I survive today, then tomorrow I'll be free.
Yeah, the way you wrote that, it felt like a scene out of a movie. You're in the cattle car, there are the thousands of bodies squeezed up against each other, and through the slats in the cattle car, he yells, I will never forget your eyes and your hands. Yes.
I came to America and I worked in a factory, and then I saw that there were 2 bathrooms and one of them said colored. How do you think I felt? So I always went to the colored bathroom. I joined the NAACP. I marched with Martin Luther King. I was the survivor and never the victim.
Those words are going to live with me and everyone who reads this book, who has the privilege of reading your story. You have the choice.
Yes.
You have the choice.
You have the choice to really see the light and see a gift in everything. Everything has a gift in it.
So even in Auschwitz, you could find that?
Even in Auschwitz, I could really, truly found that part in me that the Nazis could throw me in the gas chamber any minute, beat me, torture me. There's one thing they could never do is murder my spirit. And that's what I bring.
And with that, we say a very good evening, a very good afternoon, and a very good morning, and welcome to this most special of occasions. My name is Africa Melane, and I am most looking forward to the conversation that we are about to have. This is indeed a special occasion for us right here in South Africa and for those who are joining us around the world. And it is Marilyn Bradley, who is one of the 2,135 participants who wrote "Everybody Needs to Read This Book." Thank you, Dr. Eger. You are inspirational. But I'll turn to the message from Desmond Tutu, Nobel Peace Prize laureate and our very own Archbishop Emeritus, who says, "The choice is a gift to humanity, one of those rare and eternal stories that you don't want to end and leaves you forever changed. Dr. Eger's life reveals our capacity to transcend even the greatest of horrors and to use that suffering for the benefit of others. She has found true freedom and forgiveness and shows us how we can as well." Dr. Eger, it's so lovely to meet you once again, even it is virtually. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for your beautiful words, and it's wonderful that we have now all the technical wonderful ways that we can talk and see each other as well. I never ask my patients, how can I help you? Because I'm not Humpty Dumpty and I'm not putting you together, but I do ask the question, how can I be useful to you? And especially now, when we are locked up and families are really very frustrated because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I'm just really so blessed to know that I can bring you one thing today, and that would be faith.
And we are looking forward to exploring that faith, because one of the questions I want to kick off with, how do you see the gift when you are walking and enduring the horror of that death march in Auschwitz?
I think I call Auschwitz an opportunity to discover something you never thought was possible. And when we were in a cattle car, when I go to schools now, I always quote my mother, who told me, "We don't know where we're going, honey. We don't know what's going to happen. Just remember, no one can take away from you what you put here in your own mind." And today I can tell you, in these times, we have to be paying a lot of attention what we think, because what we think we create. To get rid of a couple of words I can think of right now, when people say, "I always," "I never," you know, a woman tells me, "I will always find the wrong man. I need the right man." And I said to her, "You know, if I were a man, I would run from you." You know, it's, you want to be hopefully a person that can really pay attention to what they're focusing on, because anything what you focus on, chances are is going to happen. So I'm hoping that people can focus right now in what way this is a time out to take stock of their own lives, because there are no problems in the world, there are only challenges. There are no midlife crises.
Do we all have the capacity for that? Do we all have the capacity to find, in whatever challenge we are being faced with,
exactly,
that opportunity that you talk of?
Exactly. And curiosity really helped me in Auschwitz, and faith and the discovery, the inner strength. The more we depend on someone else to make us happy, we're not going to really make it well. So I consider Auschwitz an opportunity to discover how we can really be careful and rise above the me, and commit ourselves to each other, because all we had was each other then, and of course all we have is each other now. You know, when I was with the Jewish community and I went to the Jewish school, I saw a Mr. Cohen. I don't know, he went to Australia and I met him there. And I noticed how people are truly empowering each other in South Africa, that we can form a human family. that you can be you and I can be I. We are all beautiful, loving, caring, joyful children of God.
When you watch the video that we started with, where some of those images that were lived experience for you are being broadcast, what are the immediate memories that come to your mind about your experience in Auschwitz?
I will never ever forget what happened to me. I have nightmares even today. I will never really overcome what happened. I came to terms with it. I call it my cherished wound, because I noticed that people who were just for the me, never made it. And right now, I can see families and they are having conversations with each other, how they can write a constitution for the family, that there is no freedom without responsibility, teaching the 5-year-old how to have the little spoon to put in a dishwasher, how to take my jeans and fold it. Of course, it has to be age appropriate, but I see now people communicating in a way that it's not going back, it's a new beginning.
It is indeed. You write in the book, memory is sacred ground, but that it is also a haunted place. Why do you think you survived, Dr. Eger?
You know, I never forgave myself that I survived. I graduated with honors, and I never showed up for my graduation because I felt tremendous survivor's guilt. And today I will tell you that I know that God had a place for me, not only survive, but guiding other people to go from darkness to light, from prison to freedom. And the biggest freedom is in your mind. And I will show you that the key is in your pocket.
The key is in your pocket. At this point, let me remind participants that you are most welcome to post your questions on the Q&A functionality. I will leave aside some time towards the end of the conversation we're having, Dr. Eger, to make sure that your questions are asked. If you can post them, please, on the Q&A section. Take us to that moment when you were forced to dance for the man who defines evilness, I suppose, Joseph Mengele. You had to escape in your mind and create a fantasy in order for you to be able to carry out that dance.
You know, one of the things that I ask my patients, when did your childhood end? And if you were sexually abused, and you come and tell me that, Edie, how can I tell you that? Because you were in Auschwitz. And I tell them that I knew the enemy. When I looked at Dr. Mengele, I saw those eyes looking at me in a very funny way. And I closed my eyes and I pretended that the music was Tchaikovsky. And I was dancing the Romeo and Juliet at the Budapest Opera House. It was just an amazing experience that I was praying so I wouldn't have to go to the gas chamber after that, because he was pointing out who to take the gas chamber, who would go to the gas chamber. And so I discovered somehow not just pray for me, but to pray for my enemy as well.
That's what I'd like to explore, because it is the most, some would argue, the most natural thing to do is to pray for nothing but harm and destruction to your enemy, as opposed to certainly what comes out in the book and what comes out in the conversations we've had, is that you pray for their well-being as well.
You know, I tell you that my guide, my wonderful guide, guided me how to turn hatred into pity. And somehow I decided that they were the prisoners, not me, because I am innocent and they were brainwashed and someday they're going to pay for their sins. And I created my own world that they couldn't touch. So again, it's not what happens, it's what you do with it. And that's why this time, when we are coping with the unexpected and the unanticipated, hopefully you can find the true you, the real you, that you may have given up to the family because you became the responsible one or the funny one. And, you know, it's like Shakespeare, you give people a role and a role expectation. My mom looked at me and said, I'm glad you have brains because you have no looks. Because my sister Magda was the beautiful one. She was the one who was with me in Auschwitz. And when I decided to go back to Auschwitz, because I lost my family, I never went to a funeral, and I asked Magda to come with me, and she told me I'm an idiot. So we have the same experience, entirely different responses. So that's why I ask people not to react, but learn how to respond. Because in Auschwitz, we didn't know when we took a shower whether gas is going to come out or water. And this is what's happening now. We have no guarantee, we don't have any certainty, but we have probability.
And you demonstrate this beautifully in the book when after your head and that of your sister were shaved, your sister turns to you and asks, how do I look?
Thank you for asking. That was so wonderful because I realized that I came to Magda and looked at her, and she was totally bored, and I became her mirror. Telling her how she really looked, I said, Magda, you have beautiful eyes, and I didn't see it when you had hair all over the place. So it's better to say yes and, not yes but. And sometimes we do that, you know, we mothers, we say, you're a very pretty girl, but fat, you are pimply. No more yes but, just yes and. And so I teach people in a way how to get up in the morning and love yourself, because self-love is self-care. It's not narcissistic.
It is indeed. In fact, it took you 20 years before you even thought about going back to Auschwitz. And you say that was the time when you started to begin to forgive yourself.
Yes, because I had my secret. I came to America penniless. I didn't speak a word of English. And so I went completely underground. And I tell people now that the opposite of depression is expression. What comes out of your body doesn't make you ill. What stays in there does. I was part of what you call the conspiracy of silence. I wish I wouldn't have done that. I didn't do justice to my children, but I began to talk when I read the book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. And I tell you, there was nothing like reading the book and you wanted to write 10 more pages for every one of them. And I wrote him a letter, and I also published an article, Viktor Frankl and me, and then we became friends, and he became my mentor and colleague. You know, he was 75 years old when he started to take lessons on how to be a pilot. And so you see, it's not the age, they're just a number. I am feeling younger now because I live in the present. I can only touch you now.
In fact, speaking of age, you were 90 years old when you sat down to start writing this book. And I'm going to use one of your tools that you use with your patients. Why now?
Because if I'm not going to do it, who will? I owe it to my parents that they didn't die in vain. That's the beautiful gift of God, the gift of memory. But people would ask me for years, please write a book. And I would say, automatically, I would say, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say. And I'm hoping to empower you that you have a lot to say. And now I have 7 great grandsons, and my book is in the living room table. And my grandson is my boss, who is doing all this work. I know nothing about computers. I'm not a thing-oriented person. I like to touch you, and I live in the present. And I'm hoping that people will take stock right now of themselves, that this is the time to regroup and possibly redecide. Because many times we give up our true self to fit into the dynamics of the family. So if you're a firstborn child and you marry a firstborn, you're going to have 2 bosses. You're going to have a power struggle.
Well, thank you very much to your grandson for making this possible. In the book, you draw a distinction between being a victim and being victimized.
Yeah. I refuse to be a victim. It's not my identity. It's what was done to me. And I think it's very important to acknowledge that I'm a human being. I'm not subhuman. I'm not superhuman. I have a tremendous energy in how to live life to the fullest. I beg young people that they are the ambassadors for peace and goodwill. And I want to be a good role model to them, not to use any substance, because that will really affect the way they think. So I'm now feeling younger than ever. I just know that I'm doing my calling, that God saved me for a purpose.
I'm going to now turn to the many questions that are streaming in the Q&A section. And Suzanne Miller saying, thank you, Dr. Eger, for your book, The Choice, which has influenced me and inspired me for many, many years now. Let's answer a question from an anonymous person who's choosing to be anonymous. How do you help them get out of a mindset that is stuck in darkness and depression?
I ask people to talk to themselves and ask themselves, what am I doing now? And is it working? It's good to have a goal. It's good to have a goal. It's good to have an arrow that you follow. So you're not here or there or here and there. It's in my second book. It's called The Gift, that I write, how can you divide yourself? Because if you do, you're neither here nor there. You can't sit with one behind on 2 chairs. That's what we say in Hungary. So I think it's very important for us to acknowledge that life is very short. And I know that I'm going to be very satisfied. This is the evening of my life. Every moment is precious. I don't have time to hate. But you see, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to ask Martine Volgeman's question that is repeated in a variety of ways from a number of participants. How do you keep on believing in God and praying to Hashem after all you and your family have gone through?
Oh, God has given me love, joy, passion, and purpose. Purpose. Yeah, my God was with me in Auschwitz. People ask, where was God in Auschwitz? God was with me. Not to take things personally. When I was told that I'm never going to get out of here alive, I was told I'm subhuman. I'm cancer to society. They took my blood many, many times. And one time I asked in German, why are you taking my blood? And he said, I'm taking your blood to aid the German soldiers so we can win the war and take over the world. I couldn't yank my arm away. I wouldn't be here probably telling you that. But I said to myself, you're such a stupid idiot. With my blood, you're going to win the war. You know, I was a ballerina. I was there. So you see, again, not to react, but to respond.
In a world still prevalent with anti-Semitism and extremism, how do we combat these evil forces today?
Well, you're going to acknowledge that one of the things that you hear that the Holocaust never existed. And I know that Ahmadinejad did not read Plato. Maybe he did. But you know, my mother told me that I have a good brain, so I became a very erudite teenager. And Plato said, you have to think of a lie. It has to be a big one. And then you repeat it until people believe it. So this is our biggest enemy, is ignorance. To be able to, if someone tells you that the Holocaust didn't exist, you never deny their truth. That is, you know, truth is always subjective. So you tell them, I hope that you find a German consulate near you, and they will tell you, I want you to know that the largest Jewish population today is in Germany, in Europe. They did fess up, and I think we want to really acknowledge what is really happening, hopefully, that hate is not God's way of being. So I do everything in my power to bring people together, families together, 3 generations together, so they can exchange their philosophies. Because I'm right, of course I'm right, but I'm only right for Ide. So when Magda told me she's not coming back with me to Auschwitz, I didn't ask her the second time, because Magda does it her way and I do it my way.
Thank you for that. Suzanne writing, I will never forget what I learned from you. Triumph from trauma, light from darkness, and freedom from imprisonment. I became stronger and courageous to deal with all my life's challenges. And she says, thank you from my heart. And I read that because it is not easy to get to that point. Is it, Dr. Eger? It takes a lot of hard work, and sometimes it can be a very painful process.
I think you have to go through the rage. I really had problems with anger after I was liberated. And I told the therapist to put me in a fetal position and sit on me and not to allow me to get up until I really got angry. Anger is not a dirty word, but it's a lot of people that don't know that anger is not your primary word. Underneath of anger is a lot of pain, a lot of disappointment, but you don't allow it to lead to discouragement. And most of all, there is a lot of fear. So when you're angry, you gave your power away to someone, take it back. Nobody makes me angry. No one can make me feel anything. So it's very important not to be also becoming the victimizer, because yesterday's victims can easily become today's victimizers, because they look at the world that the victim is weak and the victimizer is strong, and part of the psyche can identify with the victimizer.
The theme of this meeting is rising above lockdown, and the next participant is a doctor who works on the front line during COVID and says COVID has not been kind to many. Unfortunately, I was infected with COVID and it affected my heart, but I survived. As I return to work, I see pictures of so many fellow doctors and nurses who have lost their lives to COVID. That survivor's guilt is so difficult. How does one deal with that?
Well, most of us are not dealers, we just want to do something that hopefully will honor the people who died, that we don't forget them, we don't run from them, that we don't ask why me, but what now? And maybe they are, just like my parents also died. So we can hopefully learn from the past. So we can learn that there is another way, that we can unite, that we can hold hand in hand, we can form a human family, we can empower each other with our differences. That you are you and I am I, and I invite you to a wonderful Hungarian meal, and maybe you put it in your mouth and you don't know what to do with it because you hate it. So you swallow it because you're polite, and maybe you serve something too. But maybe the best four-letter word in the English language is to risk. Risk. So instead of revolving, you're evolving. I like the idea in my home. I have a lot of butterflies, and I like that idea of going through the metamorphosis and then shed the chrysalis so you can fly freely like a butterfly.
That is
I hope you can give yourself the freedom to be the best you, because God only made one of you. I like to celebrate my time with you. You are a brilliant, brilliant interviewer. And I hope one day you and I can maybe just work together and see in what way we can empower each other with our differences.
Oh, that is very kind of you. And of course, I look forward to that day. A number of participants asking, what happened to your beautiful boyfriend who you were hoping to wake up the next day so that you can show him your beautiful eyes and hands?
Yes, I came home and I looked for him, and I was told he was shot the day before liberation.
Mm.
We had our goals. We were very, very much involved in how we're gonna go to Palestine. See, we had our goals together. We were very mature for our age, that we're going to be the Zionists and we're going to go to Palestine together. And I am hoping that young people also have goals. And I now tell them that college is not the way it was, but don't stay away, just do it differently. So that's why, don't call me, Viktor Frankl and I talked about it, don't call me shrink, call me stretch. And I really like that idea, that I'm hoping to stretch your comfort zone, that you to risk and ask someone to get to know you. And even if you're not getting what you want, you're not rejected. Because rejection is just a word that people make up when you don't get what you want. So there is no guarantee that you're gonna get what you want, but at least ask for it, because many times people just don't know what you want. It happens in marriage a lot of the times. She tells me, I told him already. Well, you told, say it again. And
say it again.
And make a deal. Make a deal. I give you this, I give you that, to make a deal and come up with a win-win solution, that you don't do anything at someone else's expense.
This has been certainly the most impactful book I have read in a very, very long time. And for me, there are so many takeaways, but one of the most important is that no one can take away what you put into your mind. It doesn't matter what you're being exposed to, it doesn't matter what the challenges are around you, but it's what you put into your mind that no one could ever take away from you.
That's what my mom told me, and that's exactly what happened. Everything was taken away from me, except I had my mind, and I still do. I still do. I'm hoping that I'm going to be alive and well and work as long as I live. I do not believe in retirement at all.
Not at all. I know lockdown and regulations around it have frustrated us very much. Do you miss your dancing? Because usually you'd be going dancing today.
I love to go dancing. I also like to tell you that I have a wonderful woman from South Africa, and her name is Leonore Schneider, and she's my roommate. And I just want to tell you that I love your country, and I'm hoping that we'll meet again soon. And I'm here for you, and I'm also hoping that your dreams are gonna come true, and to be a realist, but not an idealist. So I am really happy to see the young faces. Karen, hi Karen, can you see me? Hey. Anyway, I see a lovely young man. Dan, hello Dan. You have a lot of charisma, a lot of charisma. And of course, Fanny, thank you very much for just being the you that you are. I'll cherish it always.
This has been such a privilege.
And
Thank you
Heather,
very much, Dr. Eger.
thank you, Heather.
The title of the book, The Choice, authored, of course, by Dr. Eger. It's in part, a big part of it, her story, but it's also a wonderful workbook for us, How to Be Better Humans, published by Ryder. If you have not purchased a copy yet, please do. It's going to be the most impactful book ever. Thank you very much, Dr. Eger. This has been a wonderful, wonderful privilege. And thank you to the South African Jewish Board of Deputies for giving me the honor of asking you these questions.
I like to also leave you with two questions. One is, when did your childhood end? And the second question, would you like to be married to you?
Wow, that's homework. That's important homework. When did your childhood end? Yes. And would you like to be married to you? That's homework for all of us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Dr. Eger.
Yes.
And Africa Melanie, it has been my absolute honor and privilege and beyond just to participate in this call, to participate in this experience, to hear your moving story. It is my absolute honor and privilege to thank you for sharing your story with you, your cherished wound with us. Your story has spread around the world, as you know, and in South Africa, I have to say, I came to this call with very high expectations. I have read your book. I have to tell you, there is a young man in the audience with us today who made a play out of your book, which he showed around the country. A young schoolboy. That is how inspirational and how empowerment. So really remarkable. And I came into this interview and I came into this call with such high expectations. And I'm sure that every single person on this call will share my views that you more than met them, but you exceeded them completely. And you said during this call that you are not a person of things and that you are a person who wants to touch people. And all I can say is that even though we are not together in terms of being in the same room as we might have hoped, and even though that this is being done over a call and over a video and through technology, you have touched us. You are here for us, you have touched us, you have inspired us. And I cannot tell you how strong and how empowering this opportunity has been for all of us. And your kind words, I'd like to echo your very kind words to Africa Melanie as well. And I cannot tell you how wonderful it has been to see the two of you interact, to see you sharing your stories and your inspiration and your message in this very, very difficult time. It has been an experience that will remain one of the highlights, I think, for me forever, to have the opportunity to thank you. And I think it will be an indelible experience for everybody, the thousands and thousands of people who have watched you tonight. Thank you so much.
I am very proud. I'm very proud to tell you that my ancestors didn't have it as easy as I did. They walked 40 years to the promised land, but there is one thing they never did. They never gave up. And we carry that blood. We carry that blood no matter what happens. We are carrying the blood of our ancestors who, no matter what, they would never ever give up. So I am very proud to be not a smart Jewish woman, but hoping to be a wise one at 92, and not to say why me, but what now?
How wonderful. Thank you again. You are a smart, wise, beautiful Jewish woman who truly does prove that age is just a number. It's been an absolute privilege. Thank you.
You speak so beautifully. Thank you very, very much.
So I think it's been wonderful seeing you here tonight. It's been an absolute wonderful opportunity to speak to you once again. I haven't read your next book, the gift, but I look forward to it. And I cannot tell you, I wish I had the book with me. I feel like moving, and again, I wish you were in front of me so that I can. Yes, if you can show everybody the book once again. I read Viktor Frankl many, many, many years ago. And if I can, you know, the two books sit on my bookshelf together, The Choice and Viktor Frankl's book. And it's been an absolute joy and a privilege to be with you tonight. Thank you.
You know, he was in his 30s in Auschwitz. He was a medical doctor, and I was 16 in love. So, you know, you have the different generation. And he was dreaming how he's going to lecture in Vienna about the concentration camp. And I was also dreaming how I'm going to meet my boyfriend and go to, he's showing, this is my gift. Yes.
Fantastic. I look so forward to reading it.
This is in American. Yes, honey. I am so happy, so happy that my mom and your great-grandparents didn't die in vain. So we carry on to be survivors and never a victim of anything and anyone at any time. I'm so proud that we have a state of Israel against all odds, imagine. You know what? I heard that in Israel, if you go to the homes for the elderly, they smoke pot, not to get high, but it helps with their arthritis. Even they have the best marijuana in Israel. That's what I heard.
On that beautiful note, thank you so much, Dr. Eger. I think there are going to be people making Aliyah at quite a rate now. Yeah, thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Dr. Eger. Thank you. We're going to go across now to Harold Jacobs. We're going to, Harold is going to share with us the names of our new Gauteng Council. So, Harold, if you could give us the list.
Thank you, Wendy. The following persons in alphabetical order comprise the elected members of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, Gauteng Council. Lisa Esser, Reva Foreman, Leslie Ann Gatta, Sherry Hansen, Rabbi David Chazdan, Harold Jacobs, David Cumming, Sean Mattison, Professor Karen Milner, Danielle Danny Mofsovitz, Mark Posniak, Menashe Nicholas Nick Selamolela, Rabbi David Shaw, Bernard Schul, and Monica Solomon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Harold. Mary?
Good evening, all. It's now my privilege and pleasure to pay tribute to the outgoing chairman of the Gauteng Council of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. Mark Poltniak is a young, energetic, talented communal leader who has led the Gauteng Council with distinction. But not only has Mark got a deep commitment to our Jewish community here at home, but Mark and I are both members of the World Jewish Congress Executive Committee, and he has created an outstanding impression among our colleagues around the globe. Thank you so much, Mark, for your leadership and the extraordinary commitment that you have showed at a difficult time in your life where you're growing a business and raising a beautiful young family. Your efforts are very much appreciated. Thank you so much. An evening such as this is not possible, as we all know, without the help and support of so many people. And I just want to name a few, please, if you wouldn't mind. I want to say a big thank you to Dana Lazarus, who brought us the connection to our extraordinary guest, darling Edith Eger. But much more than this, Dana brought wisdom and warmth to the planning of this event, which was so valued. Dan Stillerman, the prospect of hosting a conference for thousands of people online was a little intimidating, to say the least. But from the moment we made contact with Dan, we knew we were in good hands, and we haven't looked back. And tonight is the testimony of that event. We had planned to do a recorded interview with Edith, and Dan said, that's not the way to go. And how right you were, Dan. Thank you so, so much. And I'm sure every one of you appreciate the fact that Edith was just a touch screen away. Mama Creative, Adam Leoncinus, and Lawrence Horwitz have supported the board with all our creative endeavors. And once again, thank you so much for making us always feel and look so special. The Edith Eger team, Jordan Engel, who Edith very warmly refers to as her boss, her talented grandson who put this together, and Katie Anderson, they have been incredible. In the many meetings we've had, the journey to this point has been so much of a pleasure and such a privilege in and of itself. Thank you to Jordan and to Katie. And of course, to our own very special South African Jewish Board of Deputies professional team. Small powerhouse of dedicated and superbly talented people, Wendy Kahn, David Sachs, Cherise Seffert, Roseanne Rosen, and Shirley Beagle. You are the rock behind the board. We are privileged and proud of you, and thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you to all of you, the thousands of you who've taken the trouble to have an experience of a lifetime engaging with our beautiful Edith. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe and be well. Thank you for joining us again.